All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's panel, Charting Your Course in Data Science. My name is Desmond Cole. I'm a PhD student here at the School of Medicine and a Futures Fellow. I will be moderating today's session. I am thrilled to introduce our two distinguished panelists, Dr. Shehan Romilui and Dr. Samira Ghosafid. Shehan is a data science researcher at SAP, where he graduated from Johns Hopkins University this past August, actually with a PhD in chemical engineering. During his PhD, he focused on the impacts of Lewis acid and base interactions on the production of crystalline materials for solar cells using molecular simulation and machine learning approaches. He is passionate about providing solutions to complex and meaningful problems, has been an active member of the PFTL mentorship program, and the Professional Development Chair of the Black Graduate Students Association. In his free time, Shehan is an avid soccer and tennis fan. Dr. Romilui on the panel is the Vice President of Data Science at 6sense. With 20 years of industry experience, Samira, a seasoned data scientist, an entrepreneur, is also a team player and leader. Her expertise centers on machine learning and artificial intelligence for business understanding and strategy development, and she has led data science teams in projects at PayPal, Flybits, and Toshiba. Originally from Iran, Samira has founded her own company focusing on predicting customer lifetime value and international market segmentation before moving to the US. She has published over 30 papers in the areas of unsupervised learning and uncertainty modeling, and enjoys hot yoga, painting, and experimenting in the kitchen in her free time. We are delighted to have both Shehan and Samira here to provide their insights and advice on what it takes to succeed in the field of data science. For today's session, the first 30 minutes will be for moderated questions for the panel, and the last 30 minutes will be open for the audience to interact and ask questions of our panelists. We are very fortunate to have such accomplished and insightful panelists with us today, and I'm excited to hear their perspectives on what it takes to succeed in the fast-paced and challenging industry of data science. And so with that, I want to pose an initial question for Shehan and Samira. Can you both take us back to when you were beginning to contemplate your next steps? What career paths were you exploring? And I'll start with Shehan.
Hi, thanks for opening the floor. So of course I started the PhD program with the mindset of I wanted to, develop some technical skills and do research, and that has still been my interest. But around the time, I guess 2 or 3 years before I graduated, I had to start thinking about what I wanted to do. And the first thing that I could think of was consulting, particularly because consultants at top, consulting firms made a lot of money, right? But then I stumbled upon data science, and I heard data science as a term before, but at this point I decided to take a deeper dive into what it meant. And from Googling and exploring it a little bit, I realized that it fit me perfectly. So the rest is history.
Awesome. And Samira?
Yeah, sure. So I was thinking that as a data scientist, so first thing that we are doing, we first process our data. So I really love to processing the data. So I wanted to show you one chart that probably make it easy to show my story also. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is basically this is the things that I keep adding to that during different years. So this shows my journey. So I also started from chemical engineering. So I really passionate about the programming, and I learned C, Visual C, did lots of programming. And then I feel that, oh, okay, probably this is a better path for me. And then I switched to industrial engineering. I was working in that domain. I remember that I had the data mining classes, which is the first time that it was happening at the university. So it was at 2004, I'm talking about at that time. So it was a very new term for everyone. And then I started my own startup based on my master thesis, so which is a customer segmentation. And then, I did lots of also during my PhD, I did lots of research. So on different topics, so like uncertainty modeling, clusterings, and unsupervised learning. And then I moved to US. I originally from Iran. All this happened in Iran. So, and then I moved to a new country. So everything from beginning then. So I was working for Toshiba, Flybits, working on some predictive modeling, so predictive maintenance, passenger flow modeling, path to purchase analysis. And then in 2018, I joined a startup. After a few months, PayPal acquired us. I built and grow a data science team in PayPal. So I built two products for PayPal from the scratch. And then after that, I also joined my new current company, 6sense. So as a VP of data science here, also I build the data science org. As you can see in the third part, so it shows my publication also. So in the different areas, mainly previously focusing on unsupervised learning, but my experience in PayPal is mainly on imbalance classification, fraud detection. And so I also joined the high potential women leadership program at Stanford, which gave me a very good and exciting program to grow myself in a leadership path. And I want to just quickly show this because I don't want to show my screen again. So this is a list of my publication. So, and I think that later we go through, you know, the relation between the publications and what we're doing in industry. I know I talk too much, so probably answer some of your question already. So hand it back to you.
That was great. Thank you. We really appreciate that insight. So let's take it back to, I guess, your final years of grad school. What was your strategy for initially entering the job market? And I'll start with Xian.
Yeah, good question. I first want to say that if this is you, start right now, start as soon as possible. And my strategy centered around networking. I had heard that a lot of gifted people in the world and a lot of people applying to similar jobs that you are applying to. So the best way to stand out is by having a strong network. And so I had to put myself out there. I had to go to some conferences. I had to get LinkedIn Premium, cold email people, just to put my profile out there so people could know me. And in my opinion, that's a very successful way to stand out and also get called back for interviews, because there's a first round that you have to go through, which is getting your resume through hundreds of other resumes that are currently being submitted to these companies, very good companies. And it just takes one connection to pick yours up and say, okay, this person goes into the next round for a technical interview. So networking was a huge strategy. In addition to that, it was making sure I was very familiar with the core skills required for these positions, because I'm a chemical engineer. And although I coded during my PhD and I did some machine learning during my PhD, some people are applying to these positions with data science degrees, statistics degrees. So I had to buy some textbooks, read up on some key concepts, and also learn SQL and all these other important techniques. So a combination of networking and preparation for the technical side of the jobs.
Awesome. What about you, Samir? What was your strategy?
So I think the main, as Xian mentioned, networking is very important, that people know you. But also it's important how in depth you can make this connection. Just knowing you or can help you also, I think, is very important. The other thing is preparation, as he also mentioned. What I usually did, and it was successful, usually, you know, sometimes you are randomly just applying, this is a different story, but sometimes you're targeted some company and you think that you wanted to be in this position. And what I did my research and see that how I can help based on what I did. As you saw, I had a lot of publication. I tried to see that, okay, what kind of problem they are solving. And then I make a connection between what I did and how I can solve their problem, and fully prepare at the interview. So they knew that at day zero, I can go and start to do and contribute and added value. We have to show that how we can added value to the company at the day zero, basically. And then you can negotiate very well also. As much as you can show that how much you value, you can add to the company, then you can also negotiate very well on the other side as well.
I appreciate that. And to sort of plug futures for a moment, we do have opportunities where we have one-on-one sessions to help people demonstrate how the skills that they develop during their PhDs directly link to these careers that they're highly interested in. So I appreciate you for highlighting that. So taking it again back to graduate school, Shan, can you tell us about what experiences during your graduate education prepared you most for your current role? Whether it be things that you had to do extracurricularly to gain this experience, or things that were just directly relevant to your specific project.
I would say just about everything I did in grad school helped prepare me in some way. We need to see our grad school career as a career. You are presenting in front of your lab mates and professors. You're getting critiqued. That's pretty much what I do in my current role. I present and I get critiqued and I take feedback. So that's one thing. The other thing is the technical expertise I gained during my program as well. Of course, like I said, I programmed a lot during my my grad school career. And so that was a direct translation into what I'm doing now. A lot of Python is involved in my role. And then when it comes to professional development, I would definitely say that also leveraging the fact that this is technically a career for you, just how you relate to your colleagues. Some people in your role might have similar interests as you, especially during your PhD, and it provides an opportunity for collaboration. In grad school, you collaborate with people within your field, rather within your lab, people outside of your lab, and just having that ability to collaborate successfully is very important, not just in my current role, but I'm sure in future positions I could potentially have. So collaboration, of course, the technical domain knowledge, and also just the professional side of you presenting on a weekly basis to your professor and just getting used to being on the spot and explain your logic and your methods. That's very key. And critical thinking as well. I would say as PhD students, we should never underestimate how our ability to, approach problems from a different perspective. And already in my role, I've been able to spot the difference between how I approach problems compared to other people who don't have advanced degrees in my current role. So when you're applying, always remember that you stand out in ways that you don't know. And it doesn't matter if you have a biomedical degree or if you're not a data scientist, you're a PhD student and you have the ability to reason in a very, very unique way.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I agree. It's very good to remember that despite the fact that we're pushing the boundary of human knowledge in a very small way, even though it's highly impactful, it is a small way, but in doing so, we're gaining these highly translatable, transferable skills that I think we often underestimate the value of that, at least when we're presently students. Samira, could you chime in and I guess share what experiences during your grad school tenure you believe prepared you most for your current role?
Sure. So as I said, as a PhD student, all of us, I think, experienced that. We wanted to solve the hardest problem in the world. So this is even, we're proud of how much complex the problem we are solving, which I did in my PhD thesis. But then later, what you are realize in the industry that sometimes even simple, as much as your solution is simple, so is better for the industry. So then you have to find that balance. So what is really help in my grad schools, as Xian mentioned, so I try to learn as much as possible any skills, because all of this is a part of the is look like piece of the puzzle that later you put it together. So I would say that open, and you have a lots of time. So imagine when you go to the professional career, you don't have that time, and also so you're learn much more quicker. I would say that because, later you have too many things that distracted you. So try to learn as much as possible. So different skills, especially read about the new things that happening. So in the industry, prepare yourself. And the important thing I would say that helping me a lot, critical thinking in addition to understanding the business problem. Even in our PhD thesis, usually we are just focusing on a modeling part and a formula rather than seeing that what we are doing right now, what kind of problem we are trying to solve. If we have an in-depth understanding about the functionality of these models and understanding by your heart, not just know that, oh, this is a classification, we do this is a clustering, we do that. No, don't look at it mechanically. So understanding the reason behind that. This help you when you go to the industry, you understand the source of the problem, and then you can find a good solution because you are solving the real world problem that no one else solving before. It's not that, there's a handbook, you go there and just follow the instruction. You have to understand that problem to see that which solution is good for that. So I would say that this is also trying to understand the problem is a very critical part of the data science, that we can practice that in when we are at schools and solving the problem.
Thank you. And so staying a bit longer on, I guess, your framework of thinking as you were a grad student. So there was a point in your PhD where you realized, okay, I might want to go into data science. And there was a vision in terms of like what you thought the roles were that existed and what the day-to-day was in that role. And it also like what the objectives were as someone in that role. So how does your current role differ from what you'd envision at that point in your life? And I'll start with Xion.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Okay, because my Wi-Fi is acting up a bit. So what my expectations when I applied, I guess I read the job description and a lot of SQL to be used. And if you don't know, SQL is structured query language. It's a very popular, language for querying data. And so I read the roles verbatim. I'm going to do this, this, and that. And oftentimes I'll feel discouraged when I'm applying to jobs because I'm thinking, oh, I don't know how to do this or that. And I just wanted to let everybody know that I think a lot of companies, they post these roles just to get, to filter people out. And because they haven't truly defined the position that they want the person to come in to really perform in. So I would say in my current role, I don't use SQL as much, but I could potentially use it. So you don't have to have the skills right away. You have to have some skills to pass the interview. But once you get there, there's an opportunity for you to grow and learn and really attain those skills that were in the job description that you didn't really have. So my answer is really advice. Sometimes there's a strong connection between what's posted and some companies know exactly what they're looking for. But in a lot of other cases, they're just looking for somebody who knows how to learn and can be self-taught and is driven. And that really describes a lot of people who are doing PhDs. So that's another thing I learned in my PhD that I want to also highlight. The ability to learn things on your own. You're going to need to do that when you get into the position.
Awesome. And for you, Samira, how does your current role differ from what you'd envisioned when you decided, okay, I might want to go into data science?
So for my current role or data science in general?
In your current role.
So because I was almost for 20 years, so I was a data scientist. So,
Right.
but I would say that in the last 10 years, so I switched to the managerial track. As I mentioned, so in PayPal, also I designed the product. I really liked designing the product. So, which including end-to-end life cycle of developing the data science solution. So understanding the business problem, so have a conceptual framework, and then even design a technical part, coding part, and done the POC, push it for a deployment live. So the whole life cycle. So I would say that I was in a rare, at least in my team, so that I have the full capability doing all of these things. Usually data scientist is heavy in some part of this process. So previously, even I did this end-to-end by myself. Recently, I'm not that much doing coding, although I'm doing coding in a weekend because I don't want to miss coding. But in my current role is mainly planning and designing the product. So it's very important that how you design a scalable solution. The challenge in the data science is that usually you can find a solution 100 ways to solve one problem. So, but it's very important that which solution you built, it need to be scalable and robust. So this is I would say that the tricky part of that. So my day-to-day life is mainly focusing on coaching a team, so designing the product, planning. So as I mentioned, I was designing product before, but my current role give me opportunity because it's a mid-sized company. Sixsense is a mid-sized company in a growth path, and we are acquiring multiple products from the other startups. So it's a B2B AI platform. My team need to integrate all of this AI solution together, and at the end of the day, we have an integrated, scalable AI solution. This is a challenge that I'm facing these days, and it's a very nice and it's pure technical and is really interesting problem to solve.
Right, that's awesome, and it's great hearing from you too about like what options there are in terms of what roles people can take on in data science, because data science is this entire field. It's cool hearing like what people can actually tangibly do. I
want to just emphasize one thing on what Sean said, and want to encourage actually everybody here. So to apply for the job, look at the company, what company is doing. And if the job title, you feel that is not that much, you don't know all of these things, don't worry about that. Just apply for that. So no one writes all the job description very accurately that, the 100% need, even they didn't know sometimes what they need. So definitely apply. If you like the company, apply for that job. Sorry for interrupting you.
No, that's great. We really appreciate that. So Samira, you just essentially described a little bit of like what you typically do, I guess, in your day-to-day on your job. What would you say is like your favorite aspect of your day-to-day, and what is your least favorite aspect of your day-to-day?
It's a hard question. So especially you're recording this. So the favorite part, I would say that when I'm working with my team to brainstorm and find a solution. So it's a very interactive session. Usually we talking about the different approaches. So what's a challenge, what's the pros, cons. So, and it's really, is a nice, actually, for me, it's kind of a break for me, because usually the technical problem is the nicest problem that you're solving in your actually job. So, but the part that related to, so in my current company, so Sixsense, so again, so it's a kind of a startup culture, so which is less, but political things, making connection between other teams. We usually, as a scientist, so we are prefer just solving the problem, not dealing that much to some uncertain parameters like other people. So, generally, I would say that, I enjoy the technical part more. But I push myself to step in also in the non-technical aspect as well. So which I have to do because of my team.
Right. Awesome. We really appreciate your candor. And Shayan, what would you say, I guess, well, first, what is your typical day-to-day? And what is your least and your favorite aspect of it?
Also agree with Samira, like this is recorded, so I have to be very careful. So I work remotely, so the start of my day often involves waking up, just reading the news, getting familiar with what's going on in my field. And the field of AI, of course, things have been crazy for the last year. So There are a lot of new things to keep up with. When it comes to my role, of course, check emails. But then my role at the moment is very technical, and that's because I'm relatively new. I just started in August, so I haven't really had a lot of leadership opportunities just yet. So when I say technical, I mean model development, training large language models, deploying them. Before that, cleaning the data. There's so much data cleaning that you have to do. And that's because my role largely involves, using some transformer models to understand text and classify documents. So on the side, I also have opportunities to learn. So my own self-driven learning. If there are particular skills that I don't know, there's an opportunity for me to really set up a class, start that class, and work towards a class completion. And my employers are very supportive of that. They're very supportive of you building up your skills that will help you in your role, but also help you generally. So my favorite part would probably be the work itself, because I think I like the fact that I'm using tools that are very trendy, and rightfully so, like LLMs. And that gives me a sense of confidence and belief that I could take my career far with the current skills I'm learning. So I enjoy that aspect of it. There's no least favorite part. But if there was one, it would probably be, I guess, this isn't a big issue, but because I work remotely, and of course my employer has a lot of people working in different parts of the world, it's just finding time to meet with the people I work with. Because some people work in different countries, it's hard to meet, but I think that's one thing that I would like to see, is just sometimes the opportunity to meet a lot of people within the company and have coffee with them. But that's not really a negative thing. I do love remote work. That's just one drawback, but it's not even a major drawback. I love my role and I love the skills that I'm currently learning and applying.
Right, that's awesome. So we just talked a bit about like what you guys essentially do on a daily basis. We've talked about the skills that you have had to develop to be successful in your current roles. We talked about the skills that PhDs innately develop that they can transfer over to these roles as well. Now, could you guys possibly, and I'll pop back over to Samira first for this, but what internships or programs, if any, can current PhD students participate in if they want to pursue a career in data science? Can you recommend any?
So I can recommend 6 months internship. So interestingly, so we have an internship program. If you are interested, we'll definitely, keep in touch. So I can share contact of my program manager. So you can share your resume with us. So what we are doing, I can a little bit chime in there. So we are doing predictive, we are building predictive models to help find the prospect customer. It's an AI B2B platform that we consider different activities. We have a massive data sources from the web activity, from the, so anything related to CRM activities, sending email, receiving email, searching. So it's a little bit scary also having all of this information together. So, but it helps us to understand that who is the prospect customers. And then we build a predictive model to show you what is your funnel look like. And even we help you how you manage your pipeline and finally convert all of this pipeline to the revenue. So lots of predictive modeling, lots of prescriptive modeling, lots of NLP modeling there involved. So, this is from the Sixth Sense, but I do encourage, especially for the fields that you're thinking that you like it, experience it. And the best way for experience that is in taking an internship. So I think right now is a good season because everyone started to open the program for internship. So definitely check the companies that you like and then follow from there.
Awesome. And Shion, can you recommend, I guess, any internships specifically maybe at your company or just like generally speaking?
I maybe not right now. I would also say that, tech is obviously going through just some contraction a little bit. So some companies might not be offering, but Samira's company is. And so that's one opportunity I can recommend. I can recommend some programs though, and maybe some courses. I would recommend in terms of courses, IBM has a lot of top data science courses available for you to learn and get acquainted with. Just go on Coursera or go on Udemy, use that as an opportunity. And I believe when it comes to programs, they're just go on LinkedIn and you see a lot of people advertising, conferences that are happening. Like Rexis is a recommendation system conference that they're accepting, drafts and applications for. So if your research pertains to that, apply. If it doesn't, just attend. You never know who you're going to meet, and you never know what can inspire you. So I might not be able to recommend any jobs, but just keep building your profile and then your domain knowledge and your network. And when those internship opportunities arise, you'll be well equipped to apply and succeed.
Awesome, thank you. So I now want to open the floor for questions from the audience. And I see that we already have one populated from Miguel. So Miguel asked, how much math is really involved on a daily basis? And I'll start with Samira.
So it's a nice question. I love math, basically. So I remember that I present my PhD thesis in conferences at Alberta. So, and after that, there was a professor, unfortunately passed away now. So, but he told me that you want to just show off that how much your math is good. So because, it's involved lots of theorem and proof of that. So I want to be honest with you. So, but in my daily job right now, not that much. But the fact is, what you're doing in math, you train your brain to thinking logical. So this, logical thinking, helping you to solve the problems. Again, real world problem has a lots of unknown parameters, and it's really important how you form the question, how you form the, I would say that in the industry it's harder to find this question rather than solve the problem. At the moment you define a question, so solving the problem is not a big deal. So, but that math and logical thinking train your brain to organize the problems, capture all the all the data around you and formulate that. I would say that. But if you're thinking that, especially in industry, sometimes you are working in a lab, and you are just focusing on a specific, advanced technique is different. But in the industry, I would say that not that much, that you think that you are going write the theorem, prove it, not that much.
Awesome. And Shion, how much math do you use on a daily basis in your career?
In
your job?
Not a lot of advanced math for sure. Math when it comes to maybe, coding things up and trying to sum up tables. There are some roles that will require heavy math, and a lot of these LLMs, to fully understand them, you have to have a decent, level of understanding of the math behind them. So I'm right now applying these models. And because of that, a lot of things are abstracted. So I don't get into complex math too much, but at this point, like the math that we do is, arithmetic and things that I guess most people would do. So not a lot for me, but I would caveat by saying that it depends on your role. You can end up in a data science role, in data science team where there's a lot of math involved. And in the future, as I grow, I could end up in situations where a lot more math is involved, but for now, not that much. So don't feel daunted by the level of math you do. If just make sure that you can program, and maybe you learn some SQL, and some math that you do there will be very, simple. But if you apply to a very complicated math heavy role, expect a lot of math.
Right. Thank you. So we have another question. I think you guys have sort of touched on this a little bit, but the question is, how did you prepare for your interviews? I'm assuming they mean whenever you stepped into your current role. And so Samira, I'll start with you.
Sure. So as I said, do your research, do your homework. So your homework is that you look at that company, you see that what their AI team or data science team are doing. And again, in my case, I try usually connect my capability to what they are doing and show them that how much I can add the value to the company. So this is a strategy usually I use, and it's very successful. Because, don't wait someone tell you that what you have to do. Just tell them that, be proactive. This is what I can do.
It's awesome. That's great advice. And what about you, Shion?
Yeah, so I can go into some detail on this. There are, of course, first phone screening, then you get into the technical interviews, and then you get into more personal interviews. So I have to prepare for 3 of them. And of course, the Futures Office helped with that. And also the PFCL program helped with that substantially. Samir is right. You have to know your company. People want to employ somebody that gets their vision and will support their products or services. So that amount of research is important, and try and connect what you've done in your research to the role. There are a lot of connections that you might not realize exist, but it takes you doing research and, sort of figuring out what those connections are. Then when it comes to technical interview, there are textbooks that you can buy that help you prepare. There are YouTube videos you can watch. There's LeetCode that can help you prepare for the technical side of things. It's basically just a hub of data science and programming questions that you could potentially be asked. And so I would use those as much as you can, and as often as you can, and as soon as possible if you're looking for a job, because it's very easy. You get excited about a role, and then you might, there's a job you're applying to, and the interview isn't difficult, technical side isn't difficult, but you're just nervous. So you want to also practice under situations that will put you under a lot of pressure, so you can learn to manage those nerves before the interview starts. And then when it comes to the in-person, like the personal, just, I guess, be you, present your authentic self. The last thing you want is to get hired and they expect you to be this person that you really aren't. You just show them, I would say like an authentic version of yourself. And that's not good for you, because I guess they might hire you with the expectation that you fit the culture, and if you're there and then you presented an authentic version of yourself, then you don't really fit that environment, and that's not good for you personally, because you want to be somewhere you thrive. And for the company and employer, they expected a different kind of person. But of course, those things are also assessing your character, your work ethic, and all of that. And it's just be honest, like this. If that's who you are, and they don't like that, then other companies would gladly embrace that side of you.
Thank you. That's great advice. Yeah, show up as your true self, and you'll land where you find your tribe and where you truly belong. That's great. And then a next question is, so someone asked, how is the data science job market now with the ongoing recession? So has the data science job market been impacted negatively? Has it maybe impacted positively? Samira, do you want to chime in on that?
We're just thinking about this question. I don't think so it's impacted. So everyone impacted. So basically, so it's I think it's something that impact everything, not only one thing, but I would say that impact less on a data science, especially what data science can bring to the table is, because what we're doing, even we can help to automation and do the things smarter. So then, this is even helps the company to reduce the cost. So then, because this is the impact of the data science team, I would say because of the added value that we are bringing to the table, I see less impacted, in my opinion.
And what are your thoughts on this, Shion?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think tech broadly is affected, but if you following the news, it's really, we want people who have AI expertise and want people with data scientists. It's like it's this pivot into areas that will generate the most revenue, and this is a field that is going to do that. I did mention before that, yeah, some people are being cautious about who they hire, so they're not hiring as aggressively as they used to, right? But there's still demand for data scientists. And if you have data science background and you have your doctorate and you have expertise in a domain, that's even more valuable than somebody that just knows how to code, right? Because you can learn how to code, but then of course, the special skills and the domain knowledge you've acquired through your PhD will definitely be an asset. They can teach you how to code better, and you can pick up some data science skills. But the critical thinking and all you've learned in your PhD is definitely enough for you to stand out, in addition to those other skills that you have.
That's awesome. Thank you. Someone asked, and I will say, so I'm reading questions from the chat. Feel free to add any questions, guys, if you have them. And also you're more than welcome to unmute yourself and ask our panelists yourselves as well. So the next question from Kiran is, many job descriptions require proficiency in specific coding languages. What does proficiency realistically mean? Does it mean being able to quickly write scripts from scratch versus knowing how to understand and edit a pre-existing script? And with that, I'll start with Samira.
We say that this is different from company to company. So I share my actually idea. This is how I'm thinking about that. So honestly, I don't like coding test. So because especially for a data scientist. So because for a data scientist, it's not important how much quickly you are decoding. It's more important how you are critical thinking. So you can even Google it, this statement. I don't care. So you remember, you forget the sort, for example, a statement. So how sort this table. So you can Google it, easily find it. I don't care, honestly. And in our interview process, also, I encourage my team because when we design it, is we mainly focusing on the problem solving skills, because you can, if the person doesn't have a problem solving skills, it's hard to add it. But if the person didn't know the statement, honestly, I don't care. There is a rules in the industry. Usually they said that for the skills that you can train the person in 2 weeks, never test it, because it's wasting time. If you can run, learn that in 2 weeks, why you want to actually run, test that? So just test for the things that you cannot teach easily. But I know many companies have a very complicated, coding also. My personal approach when I was IC, I never even participate for this kind. I said that, okay, you know what, this is not a good company for me. But many companies also have a take home, which give you some problem to solve, and then you go back. This is, I think, for testing and evaluation. But proficiency, I feel that they give you one problems and they expected that you solve it. Usually they are more looking to the algorithm that you are writing, so not that much to the coding statement. This is at least I think is right to do. I don't know what other companies doing, so, but yeah.
That's interesting. And Jan, what are your thoughts on this?
So I've read somewhere that I think tech companies are trying to minimize, when it comes to coding, they're trying to minimize false positives, right? So they hire somebody that doesn't really have the skills. They don't seem to try to minimize false negatives. And so what that means is they're effectively trying to minimize, just weed people out. So as Mer said, really, you're not a software engineer. In data science, what matters most is critical thinking, because you can Google a lot of the things you don't know. And everybody does. Everybody uses Stack Overflow. In addition to that, there have been some new tools that have come out that have threatened, people who are very hardcore programmers, right? So there's going to be even more support towards, building up your programming skills. So proficiency is really proficient enough to pass the test. And the way you can check that is by actually going on these websites that help you prepare for an interview and see how well you perform there. If you can perform well there, then you'll probably be proficient enough. And I think, of course, when you get in the role, there's so much you learn. I mean, there are a lot of bright and people in my team that I've learned a lot from in the few months I've been here. So just bear in mind that wherever you are, passing the interview, there's also levels above you that you can learn within the company. And they know and understand that. So I don't think they're expecting you to be the best coder in the world. They're just expecting you to be able to learn and have critical thinking skills and be open to improving.
Right, that's awesome. And so Kira actually asked, can you give an example of such a website? I'm assuming she's referring to websites that have these resources. That you
Oh
mentioned.
yeah, so LeetCode is a big one. And that's the one I can remember right now. LeetCode.
LeetCode.
Yeah, just Google that and then you have a lot of them.
Okay, thank you. So Kathleen asked a question that pertains to work-life balance. So Kathleen said, I know this will vary amongst companies, but do you have a general feel for the work-life balance in data science? And I'll start with Samira.
So as she also mentioned, so it's a different based on a company, but I can give you some general rules. So data scientists could play two different roles. So one of them on the back and sitting on the core of the product. So it means that they are building the product. Usually this team has a more flexibility in their time, because what they're doing, they build the models, they build the data science solution, then they give it to engineering and product team to build it and be ready. Usually you do it, for example, 2 months before release. So you already deliver everything that you need. So, and it's not that much time sensitive. You have more flexibility in your time. But sometimes you're working on a data science team on the front line. So for example, you're onboarding the customers. So my experience in PayPal, so we are onboarding the customers for a fraud tools. And if the fraud happened, so I cannot say that, oh, this is a weekend, I cannot do this. So I figure out on Monday. So I have to jump in and solve it. So again, so as much as I would say this is a rule, as much as you are closer to the end user of your product, so you are more, have a strict boundaries for a time. But as much as you are closer to the core of the product, that you are on the first layer, so usually it takes delays to you receive something. And you have more flexibility.
Yeah, I think you're right in saying, in describing the outline of the different roles you have. And also to Kathleen's question, I would say that it definitely depends on the company you apply to and company you work for. I think my company, they have a really, really good work-life balance. And that's something I'm really, glad that I have. I think in other companies, you might have a situation where you're working 24/7, you have to deliver this product, and you really have to manage everything on your own. There's a lot of collaboration when it comes to my team, so I'm able to work with people. And okay, we have an agreement on when we're going to finish the task, and we're all very self-driven, so we're able to manage our time. Data science more broadly, I would say they're different, like Samir said, they're different components when it comes to delivering a data science solution or an ML model. And I think at some points you might have to grind and focus because you're trying to deliver a product with a certain deadline. In other cases, it might be we're trying to just explore whether this model works. And those times you have a lot more work-life balance and creativity and flexibility. But if you're on a sprint, what they call a sprint, where you have like maybe a 2-week period to deliver something, you may end up working a bit more. But some sprints, depending on the company, might be more aggressive than others. And thankfully, my company has a collaborative culture and very fair when it comes to work-life balance. So I'm not overstressed when I'm trying to meet those sprint deadlines. So,
right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. So I want to now ask a couple questions pertaining to looking ahead. So from here in your current roles, what are your short-term goals? What are your long-term goals? And how do your respective positions train you to achieve these goals in your next steps? And with that, I'll spotlight Samira first.
Sure. So my current role, as I mentioned, so we have a different product. So my short-term goal is that, so how we can integrate all of this AI solution. And I'm planning to build a modular system that we can plug in, plug out lots of AI modules and distributed AI across the product everywhere. So basically, scale are the AI solutions. And my long-term plans, so it's too many things. So when I actually came to Silicon Valley, my goal was to, because I had a startup in Iran, I came here to have my own startup. So I'm not sure still I want to do it or not. So, but this is something that I'm thinking about. I have lots of idea, but also because I had a company before, I know how much it's challenging. So I'm just debating that is good to go back to that life style or not. So let's see. Yeah.
Awesome. And Shan, what about you? What are some of your short-term, long-term goals, and how does your current position essentially position you for these next steps?
So because I came from a chemical engineering background, I'm not data science. I'm a data scientist now, but I don't have a data science degree. I think my goal short term is to grow in the field of AI and data science and ML and all the above professionally, and that involves, just meeting people in the field, just learning what's out there, reading, and just exploring the possibilities of this new age of this technology that's going to, have a lot of impact in the future. And technically as well, just learning the skills required, keeping up to date with the new models, learning how to deploy them, learning how to use them, because it's just going to be an invaluable skill for every company in the next few years and beyond. And my long-term goal, in regards to that, is just to apply all the AI knowledge I've gained and gleaned over the years to address, major societal and existential issues. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, like, this is just smarter technology, and technology is meant to make our lives easier and to solve problems. And they're big problems that need solving, and I'm hoping that I could contribute to that in the future. And I think my current role definitely gives me the avenue and the current direction to solve both short-term and long-term needs.
Thank you. So we have another question from Stephen. He says, I like the thought of really targeting applications to places that I'm interested in and working to understand company culture and how my existing skills would make a good fit. Is there any worth in doing the less intensive, easy apply style of applications to play a numbers game, or are these just very oversaturated already? And with that, I'll start with Samira.
So it's a hard question to answer. So because I remember at the time that I came to US, so I was completely new. So, and this is a recommendation, one of my friends told me that at least apply for 100 companies every day. So I would say that at the time that you cannot do anything else, why not? So do it. So it's better than nothing, definitely. But as we discussed at the beginning of the conversation, building network is very important. People knowing you is very important. So, if I would say, because we are scientists, easier to say that way. So if you know 10 people, the possibility that you can find one job out of that 10 people is much more than if you are sending 1,000 actual application. So, but sometimes we don't know that 10 people, then we have to send that application. I would say that definitely the priority is for the people, reach out to the people that you know them. But if they are limited or there is no one, so for me, no one is here, no one knows me. So I should have started from scratch. So it doesn't hurt to apply, I would say. And I want to tell you that in the companies, usually, at least in all the companies I was there, so we review all the applications. And I heard that, there were sometimes people saying that, if you are going through the referral is different. So usually it's not that much difference. So we usually look at all the applications. But if, for example, I was working with someone previously, I knew their performance, so it's much more easier for me for the new job that I evaluate them. So this is common sense. So I hope I answered the question.
I believe so. Yeah. And Xian, what about you? What, advice do you have for best practices in applying to these roles?
Let's say work smarter, not harder. And that's because, again, what Sarah said, just networking is key. How I got this role was that I connected with a lady at one of the Futures conferences who was working for a different company. And I applied to that company and I followed that lady on LinkedIn. and then she posted, she shared somebody else's post from a different company who was her friend. Then I applied to that job, and that was the job I ultimately got. So it's just, you never know how things are going to connect. So networking is very key. And I would say timing is very key as well. If you have the time to put in 10 applications a day, you've got to start early if you have a deadline of getting a job by, I don't know, June or so, right? So start now. Just also, there's all of discovery you also have to do, because when it comes to culture fit, you have to do a lot of research. So if instead of applying to 100, apply to 5 that you know you would really like, because you've done enough research on them, and I guess make sure you prepare for those. And if you don't get those, you would have gone through a process that could prepare you for a job that could potentially even be better than what you wanted in the first place. So always keep that in mind, that sometimes there's some blessings in disguise.
And I want to just add one thing. It's look like, you're exercising. So it's kind of, you have to practicing. So this applying also help you to be prepared for the final destination. Not
Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you. Well, yes, we're getting close to the hour. So I just want to give you both a hand for taking the time to come here today and give all this incredible advice and insight. And yes, thank you all for coming. And I'm assuming we can reach out to you if we want to further this conversation.
Of course.
Of course. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, again, thank you so much. You all have a great week, and we will see you around.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.